Houston, say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Hey there folks, welcome you all to yet another Friday vlog of mine. Another Friday has caught up with us, people. Yes, it has. And I've had a good week, to be fair, a good week in doing my day job, people. Lots of coding. Sometimes you can go through a coding week and have, well, there was a little bit of it. You can code and you're like, your brain can just get completely whammied with like, why won't this work? It's not me that's wrong. It's clearly every designed piece of software in the world that's wrong. But and some weeks everything just kind of flows right out of you and it just seems to work when you try something or do something new or what have you. So I've had a really good developer week. And my runs have gone. My runs have been hard bloody work, people. At the moment, I'm doing this week. I did Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Well, Monday, Wednesday today, 10k a piece, and I run from my house and right up to the Blackpool seafront, right up the seafront, and until the woman says in my ear it's half an hour, and then I run back, and that's 10k. Well, it's 10 blah k. But this week it's been a balance of things because I was a big fat bloater when I was when I was on holiday, and I had lots of snacks and lots of cheeky bevs. My waist was feeling a little bit bloated, so I've decided to last couple of weeks just eat around the 1,000 calorie mark, which is a really hard target to hit, to be fair. And dieting like that and running don't go hand in hand at all, people, because by the nature of running, your body wants calories in order to burn them while you're running. So it's a fine balance you really need to do with running, because you want to take enough calories in but burn off a bit more. So I've been not having enough calories, and between that and the heat, it's just been unbelievable. The 3 runs I've done have been such hard work. I mean, I managed to do them. The times weren't great, but I still managed to pull them off, which was good. So I've had a good week work wise. I've got my runs in, and the sun is splitting the bloody trees. At the moment, it's 25.5 degrees in my living room. It's like I've got the back door open, I've got the upstairs windows open, I've got everything that can get a bit of airflow going through. I'm not feeling it in here at the minute. The thing is, to record in here, I've now got to have every light in the room at full pelt as well, which starts heating up. For God's sake, people, it's summertime. It's getting hot in here. So nobody wants that, people. Nobody wants that on the Joystick Steve channel. Right. So we've got loads to talk about. We're going to dive straight in, people, without me blabbing on too much. Flaggins up to you all. Just before I sat down to record this, a YouTube video popped up as an alert from PlayStation, so we're going to throw that into the mix later on as well. We now know what the event date is, people. It is happening. All these rumours were almost true. Well, they were true. It's just it was bouncing between 2 dates. We're going to get onto that a bit later on. So we have confirmation of when the PS5... Well, we have confirmation of when they're having an event about the PS5. They seem to be suggesting through the last few weeks it was going to be games only. However, it does, in the little video, which I will show you later on, it does show you the PS5 controller. So maybe there will be a little bit of hardware stuff in there. I guess we'll find out. Maybe they're... I think it's going to be all about games, and I think they'll save the actual showing as a console for a bit later, but we'll get onto it later, people. We're going to kick off. We've got a number of things to talk about. We've got the an announcement from Xbox. Well, I got it from Xbox On yesterday, and it was about Xbox Series X enhancing the back compat program, just blowing it out of the water. So we're going to talk about that first. We also got a state of play that was specifically for the Last of Us Part 2. And they gave us 20 minutes of non-stop. It was pretty much what they did with Ghost of Tsushima, 20 minutes of non-stop gameplay. I will put some of that up while I'm talking about it again. We did talk about The Last of Us Part 2 last week, but I think there were enough bits to pick up on from watching that state of play that I will have a little bit more to say about that. And obviously with the PS5 news coming in just before I sat down, we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to finish off with my PlayStation 5 predictions, because it's a good time to do them, because they might give us some hints as to what's happening when this happens, this event that they're doing. So it's going to take me a little while to get through all of that, people. So let's dive straight in, shall we? Flaggins up to you all once again. I'm going to have a sip of this before we get going. Oh, it's ice cold, people. Ice, baby. That's that copyrighted. Right. So I don't think I'll need my spectacles, people. I think we can do without them. I can just about see what I've written down here. So what happened was that yesterday, I get the YouTube alerts. You know, I've got the alert bells on for most of the channels I follow. And I really siphoned down the channels that I was following on YouTube because over the years I'd followed all sorts of stuff. I mean, I've kind of like slimmed down all the gaming stuff, so it's all the core stuff that I kind of will go and watch. I mean, I tend to follow stuff like Kind of Funny, What's Good Games, all the people that are doing podcasts, like, you know, a bit like my vlog, I guess, but they do it with groups of people. And obviously the key ones like PlayStation and Xbox and, you know, Xbox On and all these sorts of things. So I tend to, I mean, it's a very mixed bag, but, you know, and I do follow developers and stuff like that as well at times. But then I have a whole bunch of music stuff there as well for guitar learning and all that malarkey. So I got an alert in yesterday evening, and it was the Xbox On channel. And it was basically just an explosion of the back compat program on Xbox Series X is just incredible in comparison to what we already had on the Xbox One, which was incredible anyway. And the long and the short of it is this. I'm going to keep my notes in front of me, but what happened was that they've effectively... there's been a massive question mark in my brain as to how the back... Because they kept saying, like, generations of gaming on the new Series X, but they would never clarify whether it was simply the games that we'd already had on Xbox One, like 360 games that were back compatible or whatever, or whether it was going to be a proper back compat system that you could just throw any disc in and it would just work. So, you know, it wasn't just the same thing thrown onto the Series X. And they've finally answered that, and the answer is no, it is not the same thing. What they've done is they've actually designed the Xbox Series X to be a backward compliant system, hardware-wise. So it is actually the hardware that is dealing with all of this backward compatibility. It is not a software-run program like they had on the Xbox One, where they had to kind of pretend they effectively had to run games through some sort of software thing that they had to make them backward compatible, and then they had to have some form of emulator on the Xbox One, I think, something like that. But from what they're saying here, it doesn't sound like they need to do all of that, because they have actually built the Xbox Series X from the ground up with the intention of the hardware dealing with all the backward compatibility, and that comes with a gazillion. Well, I say gazillion, I'm going to say, you know, maybe 5. It comes with a lot of perks, people. So I tell you what, let me read, because I took a photograph of what the guy had said, and I apologise because I'm forgetting what the guy's name is, but he's one of the lead designers of the Series X, or the back compat side of the Series X, and he said backwards compatibility games run natively on the Xbox Series X hardware, running with the full power of the CPU, GPU and the SSD. No boost mode, no downclocking, the full power of the Xbox Series X for each and every backward compatible game. And that is just awesome. And what that leads to is, and they go on to talk about it, is a whole bunch of perks for the games that will be backward compatible. The only thing I'm still thinking is it is still not a case, from what they're saying there, it still sounds like it's not a case of any game that is a disc, that is a 360 disc or an original Xbox disc, will just go and work, you know, and play from the disc. It doesn't seem to suggest that as such. But it could be that they just haven't tested everything yet. But they were saying in the video that they've tested thousands, and I mean, they've done thousands of hours of testing on games to make sure they work. And in the process of doing what they've been doing with the testing, the back compat program that we've seen on the Xbox One just now had about 500 titles on it, and from all of the testing they've been doing with the Xbox Series X, it has gone over double that. So when they have now got more than 1,000 titles on the Xbox Series X that will be backward compliant, and they reckon they're going to have doubled that again by the time that they actually launch the thing. And that is just incredible, and that does sound to me like it isn't going to be a case of it sounds like, anyway, I mean, I could be completely wrong, but it sounds like it won't be a case of at the minute you put your disc in it downloads a whole new version of the game. That sounds to me like you can put the disc in and it will just play from the disc. but it'll have all these perks with it. I don't see how that would work. However, it doesn't matter to me one way or the other. But it comes with, I mean, it may well be it still downloads a new version. I don't know. But it does seem to suggest that it will be a case of, rather than them having to run the games through some sort of software program, it's just a case of them testing them all to make sure that they work. And that to me sounds like throwing the disc and it will do what it needs to do. And the perks that come with the fact that the hardware is dealing with it are 4K versions of titles from the past, 360 and such like, HDR reconstruction support, so games that have never had HDR before will be able to get HDR. They're not saying this is going to be in all of them, but it is available to them. Double the frames per second that were on the original games. So if you've got a 30 frame per second Xbox 360 game, it will be running at 60 frames per second. If you've got a 60 frames per second game, it'll be running at 120 frames per second. And remember, when they're talking about compat on the X, they're also talking about Xbox One games, aren't they? So, you know, there'll be plenty of 60 frames per second games out there that will run at 120 frames per second from there. And yeah, well, over 1,000 titles at the moment. So that's incredible. I mean, if Xbox are blowing, I mean, for me, I think it's pretty head to head with the both of them at the minute. I think I won't know until I see the PlayStation sort of finalize its details and stuff. I still feel like PlayStation might have the edge on the whole architecture side of it. I still think that games are going to play smoother, and when I say smoother, I just mean the speed at which things will load and do stuff. Because I feel like what we're hearing is that the way that we've heard so many people say that the PlayStation 5's architecture has leapfrogged everybody with the way that they've designed this thing, because it has the architecture of the system's completely rid of any bottlenecks, and it just pumps through the SSD stuff really fast. And that isn't just about loading a game. It's about all of the stuff that's loading as you're running through a world and all that sort of stuff. It's seamless. We've seen it with the demo that we saw with the Unreal Engine 5. Yes, Xbox will be able to use the Unreal Engine 5. Question is, will it load that on-screen asset stuff as quick as the PS5? My personal opinion is, I'm not sure that it will, because I'm feeling that PlayStation 5 architecture is going to do it faster. On the flip side, Series X has obviously got the extra teraflops, so it's going to be really interesting to see how both of them go. At the minute, I mean, there's in order for the PlayStation 5 to be my number one console, it's got to be quiet. Like, I dread putting my PS4 Pro on. It's all right. Like, I've got Kingdom Hearts, the collection, you know, the story so far. I haven't played Kingdom Hearts 3 yet. That might make it go. But that game, dead quiet. I put The Last of Us remastered in last night. For some reason, the disc spins even though I'm not playing it. It makes a humming noise. I get a massive buzz out of it. But any home title, any big title, the fans are pelting. The thing's making so much noise. I mean, there really is no nice way of playing it without headphones on, because I've got sound cancelling headphones, and then I don't hear it. But you know, it is so noisy, and everyone knows that. So it needs to be quiet. That's the main thing for the PS5, and it needs to prove that the difference in teraflops isn't making a difference because of what they've done with the architecture, and just prove to me that that's the place where I'm going to feel more comfortable. I am really happy on the Xbox side at the minute, and it's mainly because I just fell in love with the Xbox One X. And I'm going to be gutted to see my Xbox One X go, because I really love the design of it. I do feel like the Series X is a little bit chunky, but you know, it is what it is. It's an Uber machine. It's twice the one. So, well, it's twice the One X. So you can understand why it needs to be bigger. And I'd rather it was bigger and quiet than small and noisy, which is what the Xbox, what the PlayStation 4 Pro. Well, saying that, the Pro, when you look at them side by side, the Pro is probably a bit bigger. So it's just because of the liquid cooling inside the Xbox One X. So, I mean, the both. I mean, we're gonna find out what's going to happen with PlayStation soon enough, and we'll talk about it in a bit. But Xbox, for me, Xbox are doing everything right, absolutely everything right. The only one caveat, I don't like, and I've said this before, I don't like the fact that they're making every first party title playable on an Xbox One for the next 2 years, because I think that's for me, that's just holding you back in doing something that could have been so much more impressive. I think if you're going to try and make something for going backwards as well as forwards, you're always going to be caught in this middle ground of never really having any great vision realised that could have been something tremendous, but is kind of okay. Having said that, let's bear in mind that you've got Halo 5 at launch, and Halo Infinite, what we're talking about, Halo Infinite at launch, and you've got it's not long after The Last of Us and all that's come out, is it? So, yes, it will perform better on the Xbox Series X, and it'll be faster, it'll look better, it'll, all these things. But it won't be a bigger game on the Series X. It won't have a more diverse and interesting world, or a bigger world, or, it just won't have, it won't have made use, for me, it won't have made use of the power that's in there to make the game deeper. So you can do all the visual stuff and the play stuff, but you won't be able to do, you won't be able to expand that game for the X, because you've got to make sure that it'll work going back the way. So it does hold you back a little bit. That having been said, I understand why they've done it, and it's fine. There's a high likelihood I won't get that game at launch. I've not really been a buzz about Halo for a long time, really, and first-person shootery things of, Gears I would get at launch, and have done for both of the last ones. But Halo, I've always liked Halo, but it's just never been my thing. I think because I'm not a massive first-person guy. So anyway, I digress. It's super, super exciting for everything we're hearing about this, the Series X. The only dip they've had is when they said they were going to show off gameplay footage, and they didn't really show much off at all. And it was just a bit of a duffer, really, that. But that's that one event aside. We'll see plenty of stuff come in the coming weeks and months. That aside, they've done tremendously well, and I've said it 100 times before, and I'll say it and I'll keep saying it. Phil Spencer is awesome. He's the best thing to happen to Xbox since the original Xbox. Without any shadow of a doubt, that man has transformed that console from something that was just awful at launch and spent all of these years not only prepping for the next generation, but also turning that generation into something people wanted to buy, along with the Xbox One S, which was still not great, but it added HDR and that sort of thing. And then the Xbox One X, which is just an awesome machine. That's the best one we've got at the minute. It's a glorious machine, so it is. And he's done everything he's done, buying up the studios and all that sort of stuff. Xbox this new news on the backward compatibility just solidifies everything they're doing right in order to make people want to be on their platform. And remember, the only way you can get this kind of stuff on the PlayStation side of it is if you pay for a subscription monthly for PlayStation Now to play old games. And nobody, I know people are paying it, but I don't want to pay. I've still got my entire PS3 collection. I don't want to be paying a service to play them. I've got my PS3 up there behind this camera. So, I'd rather hang on to my PS3 and store it away from time to time if I know I'm not going to use it for a while, and bring it back out if I really fancy playing something older. It's fine, and I've done it. I've done it for the channel. I did it with Lord of the Rings War in the North, people. I did. So there you are. That's the first piece of news. That's uber exciting. I'm really chuffed with that. I can't wait to hear more about that backwards compatibility. I know there's going to be tons of people that are like, oh, stop going on about backward compatibility and remasters. We want new games. We want new... Yes. We all want that, people. Shush. But if we're given a console that is capable of doing all of that, and also given us everything that was before, because we always want to revisit stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's not been remastered or put anywhere else. And, Lord of the Rings War in the North is a prime example of it. It's not hit back compat yet either, so I'm hoping that might hit or work in the new system. Stuff like that, even the old Lord of the Rings games that were on the... Well, I've got them for the PS2, actually. My PS2's up in the attic. But they would have been on Xbox as well. So yeah, I mean, there's some fantastic games that is nice to go back and visit, and if you can have those games with the uber frame rates and 4K or HDR or all the benefits that come with that power of that console, fucking let's have it, people. You know what I mean? Blimey, it made me swear. So there you are, people. Cracking news from the Xbox side of things. So we then got, we'll speak about The Last of Us Part 2 first. I've just got another pop-up from PS5, The Future of Gaming. Whether or not it's the same video, I don't know. So we got a state of play. If you remember, about a week ago or so, we got a state of play from PlayStation, which is their online event that shows off things they want us to know about. And the last one we got was the first time ever they just used it to show off one game, and it was Ghost of Tsushima, and it was great. Had a guy talking over it, talking about the game, and all we got was proper gameplay. Didn't cut away to people, just showed us all that gameplay. And that's exactly what we got with this state of play with The Last of Us Part 2. I nearly didn't watch it because I don't want too much spoiled of the game, but in the end I thought, well, he's not going to give any spoilers of the story away, really. And he didn't. So we just saw, snippets of cutscene, and really it was more about Ellie fighting, using the environment, all that. And I'll be showing a bit of it behind me. It's about 20 minutes long, and I don't think I'll speak 20 minutes about it. But what's interesting, or I might, you know what I'm like, people. Got my beer back again. It was an interesting watch though, because he did show stuff off that we hadn't seen before, and notably, and I did write some stuff down. In fact, I'll look at it because I want to get it in the order that I wrote it down. I didn't write it down at the time, to be fair. I wrote it down today, trying to remember the things that stuck out. I like to do that sometimes, just so things that stick in my mind are things that I think, well, that's kind of cool, or that's kind of important, or things that I forget. Then maybe it's something that's not of much interest, but that's not always the case, though. I often forget things that are of awesome interest. But anyway, so notable things were Ellie's able to traverse the world in many different ways that she wasn't before. Well, either of them were before, and because of they've put this up and down a bit. Well, if they put this ability to traverse the world at a vertical and horizontal level rather than everything just happening on the one level, so you can go up and down. Either climbing on vehicles, climbing over walls, climbing on rooftops, all that sort of stuff. And we didn't have any of that in the first one. And it showed Ellie. It was which one did I write down first? Yeah, ropes. It showed her. She climbed onto the top of a van, then climbed onto a sort of roadside or a sort of bridge of a road, and then it cut to her holding some rope. Where that rope came from, whether it was on the ground or whether it was in a backpack, I don't know, but it said that she can use rope to get around the areas differently than she would. I'm not sure if it was the only way to get to those places, but it means that you've got the added ability to then use rope to get down to somewhere that you can, that looks interesting, but I can't jump, I'll die. So there was this ability to throw rope over and then slide down the rope, and then it also cut to her swinging on a rope to throw herself onto a platform, or another road as it happens. And it wasn't, when I first saw her swinging, I thought, oh god, they've dragged in a whole bunch of Uncharted stuff. But it didn't, once she landed, it didn't feel like that. Because with this game, with Nathan Drake, it's a bit more lightweight, isn't it? But when she landed on the road, it was a proper, you could feel the weight of a person would drop. So it did feel real. It didn't feel like it was sort of Nathan Drake climbing and swinging. So I'm more than happy with that. And they also showed off. I feel like saying it off the top of my head, but I'm just going to go through my list. Otherwise, we'll go forward. So the next thing was swimming, which was what I was going to say actually. It showed Ellie swimming, and I thought, well, that's quite cool. Because there was a section in the first one where you end up in water actually, and you had to sort of trudge through it. But yeah, so she's just swimming around, and I thought, well, that's quite cool. But then she dives under, and I thought, well, that's pretty cool as well, to be fair. It's not like Tomb Raider so far as, down the bottom of a massive lake looking for, treasures and stuff, I don't think. It all seemed to be like, it's because the streets are flooded and stuff like that. And so she was able to sort of swim along this waterway and then dive under something that was blocking it, And then same inside the building, the water was still there, and she was swimming her way into this building. So it was really, really cool, and I loved the way that they'd done that. It felt really real, it felt natural, didn't feel forced or anything. Very, very nice. And along with that, because they also showed off, because of this flooding of the streets and stuff, he said, and Neil Druckmann was doing the commentary for it, he said that not all streets can be, you can't get through them with a horse or walking. So they've also got boats. So some of the streets you saw Ellie getting into a boat and then driving the boat around the waterways the waterways that the streets are now. And that was really cool as well. But what we don't know is just how much of a freedom is there for that. It could just be that section you have to use a boat, and that's that. It's pretty linear. The boat bit didn't seem to be that you were going to be wandering all over the place, certainly from the clip that we saw. But when it came to the horse riding, he was talking about Ellie being able to, she's galloping away on the horse, and it's for quick traversal of the area. So he was basically saying, like, these are bigger areas. So if you want to get around quick, get on your horse and just gallop about. So you don't, there's no like, oh God, I've got to walk all the way back there. So that was pretty cool. It didn't show whether or not you could. Well, it might just follow you. It didn't actually say anything about calling your horse or whistling for your horse or any of that sort of stuff. It just showed it on a horse. So I'm wondering if you get off the horse and start wandering about and come out of a building, you're like, where the sod am I? Could be that it shows you maybe where the horse is, but there wasn't a radial map in the first one. They were very limiting on the screen, weren't they? So it could be there's a whistle, or I don't know. It didn't seem to show you, that I remember, as to how you can call the horse or find your way back to it if you wander off. Also, we don't know if the horse is in the whole game. I mean, there was a horse in the last one. We only got to ride them a few times, but it was all linear and we had to go from A to B and what have you. We couldn't wander away from them too much. Anyway, it looked fantastic, absolutely brilliant. And anything else on my list there? There is indeed. So, boats and horses, yeah. God, my eyesight is just bloody awful, people. So the environments themselves, he said that it does span. It's still got its seasons, winter, spring, summer, fall, and it also, which is what the first one went through, the whole cycle of the year, and then it's also got many different areas you go to. But the predominant area is Seattle, but Seattle itself is broken into 3 area groups. You've got the main city, you've got the suburbs, and then you've got the coastline. And they all looked completely different to each other, which was, well, within reason. But they all looked like, you felt like you were going into a little different section and stuff. I mean, they looked really, really good. The suburby bit did look a bit like, I suppose the suburb and the city bit would look similar to what we saw, with the original one, because we did go through a city at one point and we definitely went through suburb areas. So, they're going to be very similar, but it is many years on from that. So, things are probably more overgrown, and they certainly seem to be, than they were. And then, he did talk a bit about the different factions you'll be fighting. You've got a religious group, you've got another group that they were set up originally to be like a resistance to the army, and they eventually won that fight, and they are now sort of controlling the city. And they battle with the religious group, and you've got to fight your way through all of them. Showed off the new clickers and the new infected. There was a couple of new ones. There was one that explodes dust out that can burn people if they're too close. There was one that's deathly silent until it sees a prey and just leaps on you from nowhere. So that was quite cool, because those are the jump moments. Because everything else from the old games, you could kind of hear them, the clickers especially. But you could really hear them groaning or clicking, or So it's quite cool they've added a few additional ones in, and there is more from what they were saying. And it was a great walkthrough. It was really, really good, and I don't feel like anything was spoiled. I tell you what though, I'm still slightly worried that it is really, really brutal, and Ellie is a killing machine in those clips. I mean, she is angry and she's tearing into people. I mean, I think the story that's going to be told here clearly is going to be about hatred, but I think it does mention the price that's paid for this kind of revenge that she's going on. And I think that in the end is going to be, the moral or whatever we need to pick up from this journey she goes on needs to be about whether or not it was worth the price she's paying to go on this revenge trip that she's on. But it looks amazing. It looks really good. All the dodging and fighting, all the, it just looks incredible. So I don't think I've told you actually. I don't think I said last week, but I've pre-ordered it now. I had I had an Amazon voucher, so that went toward it. So I've ordered it from Amazon, and so I've got it for what, 30 odd quid in the end because I had the voucher. So that is pre-ordered, but I pre-ordered the Steelbook edition, and I've got. I might have mentioned this last week now. Actually, now I'm saying about it. Anyway, I've got that will make four Steelbooks when I get that one. I've got Hitman, I've got Deus Ex, and I've got Sekiro, and then we'll have The Last of Us. So that's four. I'm thinking I might get a couple of really cool gamey bookends and then put those between the bookends. And I think I might start collecting the Steelbooks as much as I can because they were kind of there with the art book one I've got, or a couple of art book ones, and I keep thinking, well, they're out of place with all the other games. They don't line up or look nice. So I think I'm still not sure about the art book ones because they're not going to last the test of time really. But I've only got one. I think it's Tomb Raider. But with the Steelbook ones, they're really, really nice, and they're really beautiful artwork on them. Sometimes they're embeveled and stuff. They're really, really nice. And yeah, I think I'm going to get out of my way to start collecting more of the Steelbooks if I see them at launch, because I think if I can get a really nice collection together, I could have a really nice long line of those. So yeah, really, really chuffed with that. So that will be coming on June the 19th, I think it was. Yeah. So there you are. That was it for The Last of Us. I mean, it was a great show off. I'm really stoked for that game. I suspect. I don't know if it's the last we'll hear from, the last of it. Before we actually see the game, we've still got a few weeks left yet. So let's talk PS5, people. So just before I sat down to record this, so literally I was about to just sit down, my phone popped up with this YouTube alert. And it was PS5, and I'll show it behind me. It was like a 10-second clip or something, and it was just the controller. Now, I'm probably completely wrong, but I got excited initially because I thought the controller was black, and I really don't want a two-tone controller. But anyway, it might just be because it's really dark, the video, but it's basically the controller, and it's sort of spinning around and coming out. And then you kind of open up to that, and then on the message basically says, see you on the 4th of June. So we now have confirmation for that event from PlayStation happening on the 4th of June. Whether or not it's games, whether or not it's the hardware, whether or not it's a bit of both, we'll have to wait and see. It's interesting that they showed the controller in that clip, but then I guess it's all they have to show. So, well, I suppose they didn't. They could have just thrown up the PlayStation 5 logo, I suppose. But it's just interesting they threw the hardware up. But I suppose the controller could point to, it's going to be about the games. And it seemed pretty... I'm sure there was some mentions through the weeks there that it was definitely not going to be a PS5 show-off, as in what the console looks like. I think that's being held back for later. And there's been a lot of stories about the game developers that were meant to be taking part in this event, which was meant to happen sooner, but Sony were not having it. Because everyone's having to do stuff at home, they weren't going to do this thing if they couldn't show it off properly. So they weren't happy with some of the quality of stuff that was happening at home from developers and stuff. So a lot of developers backed off, and then we're left with whatever we're left with. So they've been very clear about the fact that they 100% want to see people showing off basically what we saw in that demo. So we now know, people, it is the 4th of June. We are going to hear, we're absolutely going to see gameplay footage. There is no doubt about that. We're going to see some games playing on the PS5. And they were also absolutely adamant that they would be showing off stuff on the PS5 and not, this is it on a PC, but this is what it's expected to look like, which is what Xbox did with a few of theirs. It will be, this is playing on a PS5. And they were absolutely... not giving in on that again, which is why some of them stepped away. So what we're left with, hopefully, is a true depiction of what PS5 gameplay is going to be like. Super stoked, people. It's going to be mental for the coming months. You know, I mean, there's. I mean, I know I'm only talking about PlayStation here, but we've got, you know, Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Cyberpunk's still ready to land after that. And you've got all the Nintendo stuff happening, and it's, you know, it's crazy. And then you've got the new consoles hitting in October and November, which, I mean, we don't have dates yet, but it's, you know, holiday 2020 is basically October, November. So, and it always is. So what I'm going to do is, I'm looking forward to that. 4th of June, where are we now? Let's have a look. 29th. So it's the 29th, 30th, 31's on 31st Sunday. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's Thursday next week, is that right? So we're looking at Thursday next week for finding out what is happening with PlayStation 5 and the first proper look at what they're doing. So, I mean, it's not far away at all, is it? Not far away at all. So, in preparation for that, so I will probably, well, in fact, my next week's vlog will probably be about what they showed off, won't it? So, Flangers at Friday next week will be what happened at that event. That's perfect timing, isn't it? So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some predictions, people. A few of you have asked me to do this, actually. A few of you asked me to predict what you think would be the launch titles for the PlayStation 5. Before I get going, I'll have one of these. So, I might have mentioned some of these before. And they could be complete bollocks, people. I have absolutely no idea. Here's my thought process. So, my first prediction is this. I think the PlayStation 5 is going to be £499. I'll let other people convert that into dollars. I think that will be... Well, now that I've said that, let me change my mind. I think it'll be $499 and it'll be about £469.79, something like that. I think that's what the price range is going to be. I think they'll want to keep that. Nobody likes to say $500. It'll always be $499 or $599 or $399. So I think it'll be $499, which will make it probably around £469 to £479. That's my prediction on the price. Launch titles, I think we are looking at Horizon Zero Dawn 2, because I think that game was out long enough ago, and now that the engine was built, would take them, you know, say 2/3 of the time it took the first one. So, you know, or even less, but... So I think Horizon Zero Dawn is, for me, a launch day title. I think they will release a new Ratchet & Clank. There's been rumours that a new Ratchet & Clank's been in the works for ages. The last Ratchet & Clank, which was a remake of 1, was it? Or one of them anyway. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant remake. I think that'll be... Because they love to put something in for the kids. And last time it was Knack, which didn't do... It wasn't that great. Well, to be fair, it never appealed to me, that game. I've never played it. So people that have played it said it was alright, but... It's never appealed to me, that game. Whereas Jak and Daxter, Ratchet & Clank, great. You know, loved those. It's all about... It's like anything, isn't it? It's either a good idea or it's not going to appeal to people. I mean, you remember the buzz that comes out of a Ratchet & Clank when it first came out, or a Jak and Daxter when it first came out. I mean, no one was going, I'm not sure about that. You know. So Horizon Zero Dawn 2, Ratchet & Clank, and here's my big one. This could be way off the mark. The Demon's Souls remaster, I think, might happen at launch. And we know it's happening now. I think there's been confirmation of that. Is it Blue Point that's doing it? And it's not a remaster. It's like a proper... so far as I understand it, it's like a proper remake of that game. So it's not just like polish it up with HD. It's a proper remake for Demon's Souls, and that's supposed to be exclusive on the PlayStation 5. Sorry. So I think those three, for me, that's my three guesstimates. That's what I think is going to happen. I'm pretty confident about Horizon Zero Dawn 2 and Ratchet & Clank. I've got a feeling that they're going to land, because you've got to launch with a good title. Well, you've got to launch with a title that's going to be great for adults, and you've got to launch with a title that's going to be good for kids. At least one of each that are specific to that console. Obviously, there's third-party games going to be hitting that. I'm not even going to pretend to know what they're going to be at launch. I also think that they're going to say that because it's so close and because they're still going to be wanting to hype these games. I think that they'll probably say The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima will be patched to run at an Uber level on the PlayStation 5. I think they'll give it as a reason to buy one. So you can play it on the PlayStation 4 and Pro, but if you own it on those, it'll be patched and it'll be playing at, I don't know. I think, for me, I don't know yet, but I suspect that The Last of Us Part 2 is playing at 30 frames per second. I can't see it being 60, not with it being as open and big as it is. I could be wrong. But I suspect that you'll play it at 30 frames per second on the 4 or Pro, but you'll be able to play it at 60 frames per second on the PS5, say. Something like that. And same with Ghost of Tsushima. I think they'll try and tie those into the launch as a reason to buy a PS5. I also think that they will probably say that all their first party titles have been patched to play better on the PS5, or had the dynamic stuff opened up so that it will just make use of the power if it's there. So my prediction is that any first party titles, because we know they're going compatible to the PS4 at least, it will be for every title. It's just going to take them a while to get through them. They just didn't seem confident they would all be ready for launch. That was all. But I think that the PS4 first party PS4 games will be Ubered up for the PS5, and I don't think there'll be any backward compatibility outside of PS4. There was a big buzz about the fact that it's the blah anniversary and woo, and they're going to make a console that'll go from PS1 all the way up to PS5. Nah, I don't see it. And they've never shown that magnitude of interest for backward compatibility that it would concern them. Like they tried to do it, the PS1 games played on the PS2 and the PS2 games, obviously. And then the PS3 played PS1 games, and the original Fat One played the PS3 games. But it was a faff. It was becoming a bother for them because of bugs and issues. And so the next versions that came out didn't play PS2 games. But to this day, the any PS3 will play a PS1 game. But it was like, that's become a headache. We're not going to support PS2 games anymore. So, it could, but as far as I know, you can't put a PS1 game in a PS4, so they didn't bother with PS4 going backwards at all. And I don't, because they've got PlayStation Now, if they do full backward compliance, then what's the point of that service? There is none, because people would be cheaper. Just if they're interested in playing a game, they could just go and buy it online for a tiny price anyway, and do it that way without having to pay a monthly subscription just to play old games. So I don't see them doing it. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, as I say, and I keep saying, I've got my entire PS3 collection upstairs. It would be nice to have one console that would play all the gens, and I could get rid of the PS3 and the PS4, and that they're gone. One console to rule them all, and in the darkness bind them. You know what I mean? But it's not the end of the world. I'm more than happy for the Xbox Series X to take care of all of that for me. But there are always going to, of course, there's going to be titles that I can't play there, the exclusives from the PS3 and stuff. I mean, Infamous is a prime example, like the original Infamous. People forget how bloody good that game was, incredible game. I mean, the follow-ups never quite hit the same mark, but that original Infamous was a cracking game. It really, really was. It was so good. And I think it was let down a little bit by the fact that the PlayStation got a slow start. So people didn't really, if they heard about it at all, it was probably later on in the day like me. But a fantastic game. My God, it was so good. So there you are, people. That's it. That is all we had. 45 minutes, people. I didn't do too bad. There was a lot to get through, to be fair. Well, there is literally nothing else for me to talk about. My evening is going to be, as it always is piecing together the videos that I want to put in with this particular vlog, rendering it all and posting it up for you guys. And I'm going to try and do that sitting out the back there with the door open. And if I get it done early enough, and this actually will happen tonight because it is so freaking hot in here, I'll probably sit out until, just naked. I'm just sitting in my garden naked. I'm actually raised up so the whole world can see me on my There's a naked guy sitting in his garden. But it is so hot, people. But I'll sit outside until it cools down a bit with my beverages, waiting for people to watch the vlog and respond and reply. Leave lots of comments below, people. Let me know what your predictions are. Let me know what your opinions of the backward compatibility, new news is, all that sort of stuff. Whether or not you've pre-ordered The Last of Us Part 2 or Ghost of Tsushima for that matter. Leave loads of comments, people. You know, I always get back to you. I love chatting to you guys. It's why I do this channel. It has been an honour and a privilege serving for you guys in this vlog of mine today. And I shall see you all next time, folks. Take it easy. Bye.